Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The honorable examiners. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nurmiati from class A 2018. I would like to thank for the opportunity that has given to me to present my proposal with the title The Correlation Between Speaking Anxiety and Speaking Ability in the Second Grade of SMP Negeri 4 Majene. Chapter 1 Introduction. First is background. Generally, those who speak have a big word in the way of communication, or even are the most important in communication, as contained Cummins 1994 and Morozova 2013 said that speaking is one of the most important language skill in English. This skill can be developed and enhanced and as an effective means of communication. People who are able to communicate well have good speaking skill as well. It's not uncommon for speaking to be separate and marked for some people to see someone's way of thinking. According to Bailey 2, 2005, page 42 in the journal M. Darwin Zuhri 2014, speaking is to communicate through oral expression to gain much more information effectively and efficiently. According to not infrequently, it is also considered that the cover of one's intelligence. Those who are able to transfer their speaking well are considered to be smart and deep at persuasive people with fluency, and it is also easy to gain the trust of interlocutors. In fact, many people think that speaking English is something that is very difficult to do. According to Elman V. and Gaibani 2016, that site on journal Hussein Modev, Ahmad Al-Khataba and Ibrahim Basir 2019 said that anxiety that arises from the pressure of learning a language can result in low productivity, dislike or fear of speaking. However, in terms of speaking based on what is seen and even often occurs around us, it is not uncommon for students to speak in activities suddenly become stiff and take a long time so that what they think can be expressed. This causes the message not to be channeled properly, so that the next time when an opinion is needed, people will hesitate and in the end do not dare to speak again. This anxiety is the problem until now. People are unable to control their worries and end up in a deadlock. Anxiety experienced by students is certainly not the only cause. There are several factors that cause students to not speak fluently. According to Sang 2012, page 78 till 82 state that there are 4 factors that cause language anxiety in speaking English. First is self-perception, second cultural differences, and the next presentation in class, and the last is fear of making mistakes. The factors are in self-perception, which tends to self-suggestion that is not capable, while in cultural differences, for example in speech accent, and the next factor is the most frequently experienced by students. Reviewing this problem, that anxiety can be a major source of problems for students' speaking ability. Those study was conducted on the relationship between speaking anxiety and speaking ability second grade of SMP Negeri 4 Majene. This research was conducted to see ascertain whether there is a relationship between speaking anxiety and the second grade student of SMP Negeri 4 Majene. According to what has been discussed in the background, scope of the research. This study focused on the discussion of the relationship between speaking anxiety and speaking ability of the second grade students SMP Negeri 4 Majene. According to a hub of the research, so the research question can be considered. First is there a relationship between speaking anxiety and speaking ability? And the second is what causes anxiety in the second grade students of SMP Negeri 4 Majene when doing speaking activities. Next is significance of the research. First is theoretically contribution. The result of the preparation of this study are expected to be able to provide knowledge and insight to students or teachers about students when carrying out speaking activities, especially students or English teachers, and also expected to contribute to practice both within the scope of learning and outside scope of learning. Second is practically contribution. First is from the teacher. It is expected that the result of this study can be used as a guide in providing input to the student who experience anxiety during speaking. Second is from the student. Student can find out about the impact of anxiety and speaking ability and find out the cause based on the description of the writing of this study. The way it is hoped that it can respond related to anxiety about speaking ability. And the researchers, it is hoped that the research result can be used as a reference in the preparation of further research. We're going to chapter 2 is a literature review. First is previous related studies. Based on some of findings, those have varying results depending on the correlation variable in questions. The first findings show that there is no significant correlation between speaking anxiety and student achievement in speaking. This means that speaking anxiety does not have a significant effect on students' achievement in terms of speaking ability. The same thing happened to the second findings. Meanwhile, in the third findings, it does show a correlation, but in the end, the correlation of speaking anxiety is not too strong. So it can conclude that speaking anxiety has no relationship with the speaking ability. While the conclusion from the last findings is that the speaking anxiety has a correlation with the student's speaking ability. By adding because of the student's anxiety, it becomes difficult to obtain language acquisition. To prove whether there is the correlation or not, a related research restrained with the title of the correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability at the second grade of SMP Negeri 4 Majene. Next part is about theoretical framework. First is speaking ability. Speaking is one of the language skill in everyday life used for communication. According to Falker 2003, page 23 in journal Gaya Trinidi Nanti 2018, the rule how to react. Of course, a vehicle is formulated in the form of speaking that is the way to give feedback to the other person. There are some components of speaking. According to Harris 1974, page 45, cite on journal Gira Calvina Izumi 2070. To ensure students' speaking skills, there are 5 supporting components, namely fluency, pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension. According to Sameh Mohammed Fahim El-Saka 2016, which is Wilson 2006, as the feeling of very accurate when using the language orally. In the same vein of thought, Plamer 2009 states that foreign language anxiety as a feeling of inhibition in using the foreign language. The definition of anxiety that have been proposed by several scholars have some common characteristics. The state of apprehension, fear, tension, and feelings of uneasiness. Finally, we are in the last part of chapter 2. Is about hypothesis. According to the ideas expressed by some researchers in previous related studies about the correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability of students, some of the results described in previously part claim that there is no correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability towards students' speaking ability. However, in the last findings, the result showed that there is a correlation about speaking anxiety and speaking ability. In order that get an out proof about the topic, this study formulates the following hypothesis. Null hypothesis. There is no significant correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability of second grade students of SMP Negeri 4 Majene. And alternative hypothesis, there is a significant correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability of second grade students at SMP Negeri 4 Majene. Chapter 3, it's about research methodology. First is research type and design. This study uses quantitative methods in correlation research. To more specific, the researcher used an ex post facto research design in the study. But this research consists of speaking anxiety and speaking ability data. Therefore, the researcher symbolized the speaking anxiety as X, while speaking ability symbolized as Y. According to Head and Farhadi, 1982, page 27, site on Gita Kalpina Izumi 2017, the formula could be further illustrated as follows. X, Y. X refers to the test of anxiety. Y refers to the test of speaking ability. Research schedule and location. Based on the result of temporary observation conducted on some students of SMP Negeri 4 Majene, this research was conducted at the school of SMP Negeri 4 Majene, where this research will only confirm whether or not there is a significant correlation between speaking anxiety and speaking ability. Population and sample. First is population. Population that will be included in this study is none other than students who are at SMP Negeri 4 Majene. And the sample of this study is a target that population that research plans to study for generalizing about the target population. Based on the above understanding, the samples in this study were none other than students from the SMP Negeri 4 Majene who are in second year. And next is about operational research of variable. As we saw in the previous design research, this research consisted of speaking anxiety and speaking ability data. To see the relationship between speaking anxiety and speaking ability, it can't be immediately that is clear that independent variable is none other than speaking anxiety, while the dependent variable lies in the speaking ability. Research procedure. In obtaining data, quantitative research methods are needed so that the perfections of the data can be obtained. In this state, the quantitative method is invested in a test. You can test to see if there was a speaking anxiety reaction related to the student's speaking proficiency, taking into account the points of speaking fluency, pronunciation, and grammatical accuracy. In the test, students will be asked to make a report related to their daily activities, which according to the students are the most memorable at that time. Students will give their report and describe or explain in front of the class. From this test, it can be seen whether there is anxiety when students speak. Research instrument. Based on quantitative research methods in data collection, the instruments that can be used include test. The test is a step where the teacher measures the extent to which the student's knowledge, abilities, intelligence, interest, and talents are assessed. Data analysis techniques. The researcher used methods for data collection. In ensuring the quantity of speaking students, the researcher recorded a video of the students' performance while speaking. The results of the video report that have been carried out are then assessed and then entered into the data results of the relationship between the two predetermined variables.